Hi everyone, we're going to talk today about Kiang'ombe AA, a new Kenyan coffee release that we've just begun roasting and selling in our range. It's our third Kenyan coffee of the year. Typically when we travel to Kenya, we cut through lots and lots of different samples. Kenyan coffees tend to have a lot of acidity and a lot of sweetness, and it's hard to find diverse cup profiles. The three selections we made this year, I think, offer quite a nice spread of the different types of Kenyan cup profiles you can find out there. This is the second coffee this year from Kirinyaga County. Muchagara was another coffee washing station in Kirinyaga County that we roasted earlier in the year. And Kiang'ombe AA is specifically from the Kiandai community in Kirinyaga County. Around 1,000 or so smallhold coffee farmers in that area are delivering their coffee cherries to this coffee washing station. The smallhold coffee farmers are typically adding discarded coffee pulp and cow manure to be organic fertilizer that will also enrich that volcanic soil that their coffee trees are growing in. They're growing their coffee cherries between about 1,700 and 1,800 meters in very, very rich volcanic soil. The varieties typically are SL28 and SL34, but there's also some Batian and Ruiru 11 being planted as well in small pockets. And they offer resistance against coffee berry disease and coffee leaf rust, and we're seeing the percentages of those varieties being increased over the last few years. Most of the coffee farmers growing the fruit that makes its way into this lot have around 250 or so coffee trees, but also other crops like bananas. And the area, Kiang'ombe, is actually named for what the region historically was doing a lot of, which was cow husbandry. Ng'ombe means cow in Swahili. And Kiang'ombe factory is operating in a manner pretty typical, where they will receive coffee cherries and first hand sort through them for any unripe or damaged fruit before they are depulped and then left to ferment underwater, which they get from a local river, for about 24 hours. And that just enables the native microbiome of bacteria and yeasts to effectively eat and dissolve the sugars surrounding the parchment. And then they'll wash it and grade it in long channels before it goes out to dry. And the grading is effectively done by density. Those weighty, heavy seeds sink to the bottom and are trapped by blocks put into the channels. And when we have a lot like this, which is a AA, big size, from ripe coffee cherries that are density graded, you have a really fantastic product to work with, and it roasts very nicely and it brews very nicely. An extra step they take to ensure it's super duper clean is after washing and grading in channels to allow the denser seeds to be siphoned off into top quality lots and anything floating into lower quality lots. They also soak the coffee in clean water again for about another 24 hours. And that extra stage just helps any final fermentation to occur and make sure everything is homogenized and stable. That's one of the things we've seen to be really conducive to extending the shelf life of coffee as well. The coffee is then put out to dry on raised beds with nice ventilation, being turned. It's all very clean, very stable and very slow. And then once it's delivered to the dry mill, one of the big stages in Kenya is to grade by size. And typically we see AA lots be a little bit more expensive than AB lots. Sometimes the AB lots can outcup the AAs, and that's a slightly smaller size grade. Still big beans in the scheme of things, but the AAs, because of their size, are typically prized as a bit more valuable. It is true that they roast very, very nicely because it's a very, very uniform size. When we receive it in Viner Street, because it's one of three lots, we do certain checks on the green coffee, physical analysis, as well as obviously sample roast it and cup it. And we decided to release this coffee third of Muchagara, Kirura and Kiang'ombe, because we felt it had the most sort of expressive and bright profile, and it was almost the most closed when we first tasted it. So it took a little bit longer to be expressive. You know, it's September and this coffee is tasting super duper fresh and complex, and that's a testament to really, really well grown, processed and dried coffee. It's a fairly lightly developed coffee with a fairly light color on it. Even for us, we tend to roast light in the scheme of things, light to medium, but this is a very, very light roast for us. And we really want to show off a lot of the bright acidity in the cup with that light roast. Okay, that's all the details about Kiang'ombe. Let's brew a cup. Okay, we've got 20 grams of coffee. We're going to brew 330 grams of water through that and have a taste. What I'm brewing here is actually the test roast of the coffee, where we first have cupped a sample roast, and we know all of the data about the coffee, the moisture content, the water activity, the density, all of those kind of parameters. And then we apply a full-size test batch to see how the coffee performs on scale. What's interesting with keeping this roast very, very light is that there's still quite a bit of cocoa and clove aroma to it, which I would normally associate with a darker roast. So the first thing in this kind of coffee is always going to be the fruit character standing out. Washed Kenyan coffees always kind of carry the hallmark of that blackcurranty flavour, and sometimes you get that in really, really high intensity. This coffee is a little bit more delicate and pared back from that. It's more blackberry and raspberry with a little bit of floral notes and a little bit of baking spices as well. And it's really, really clean aroma as well. The first thing you get in the aroma is definitely a lot of berry fruit. You've got raspberry and blackberry in abundance here. It's not the classic blackcurranty Ribena bomb that you can sometimes get with washed Kenyan coffees. This is a bit more berries, brambly fruit. Also, there's a little bit of cocoa and a little bit of clove, that kind of warming, spicy, chocolatey vibe. Even though it's a very, very light roast, there's still a bit of that warmth to it. What's unusual when the coffee's hot in the aftertaste is a bit like mint chocolate. There's a very, very fresh edge to it that reminds me a little bit of mint and that kind of warm, sweet chocolate as well. But then there's just so much of that jammy fruit in there as well. Almost like coulis, like really, really concentrated berries. As it's cooling down, some of the more delicate flavors are a little bit easier to taste. And lavender and honey are some of the flavors I'm getting in it as well. Honey because it's got that more complex sweetness than just plain white sugar. It's a little bit of a fudgier, more interesting edge to it. Very, very lovely juicy body as well. Just sort of keeps going afterwards and really makes your mouth water. And that's the nice thing about having a good amount of acidity in a cup of coffee, is that your mouth feels refreshed and you just want to keep going back for more. So that's the Kiang'ombe AA. Really lovely coffee from Kiandai in Kirinyaga province. And it's beautiful. It's the third Kenyan release of the year for us. We really hope that we can buy coffee from the Kabare Farmers Cooperative Society again when we next travel to Kenya. And we really hope you enjoy it as well. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.